Have you ever met someone who seemed almost too nice, too perfect, right from the start? When someone wants to control you, they'll begin with kindness. They flatter you, comfort you, make you feel seen. They assume you'll open up, drop your guard, and let them in. But what if I told you that their charm isn't connection? It's a calculated disguise. It's like honey smeared over a blade, sweet at first until it cuts, or like a spider spinning a silky web, not to protect, but to trap. Just like the honey and the spider, dangerous people hide their intentions behind softness, waiting patiently until you're too entangled to escape. Because while you're feeling safe in their glow, they're mapping your mind, learning what breaks you and what buys you. And when they've earned your trust, that's when the real game begins. So, how do you recognize these people before their mask slips? Stay with me till the end, because the final sign is the one they hope you'll never see coming. Let's begin. Number 1, they mirror what you want to see. Let's talk about one of the most deceptive and dangerous forms of manipulation. Someone who mirrors everything you want to see. These people don't come across as threatening at first. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They seem kind, understanding, and perfectly in sync with your personality. But here's the catch. That connection isn't real. It's manufactured. In the beginning, dangerous people observe you silently. They study your tone, your values, your pain points, and your hopes. And then they begin to reflect those things back at you, flawlessly. Here's the truth. Instead of showing you who they really are, they become who you want them to be. They say all the right things. They nod at the right moments. They share similar opinions, agree with your frustrations, and claim to want the same things you do. It feels like instant alignment, like you've finally met someone who just gets you. But it's not a connection, it's a strategy. And once you trust them, once you let your guard down, that's when the truth begins to unravel. This is where Stoic wisdom steps in. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The closer something resembles truth, the more carefully it must be examined." The most dangerous lies are the ones dressed up as sincerity. When someone seems too perfect, when they echo your words, mirror your emotions, and adapt seamlessly to your life, it's not authenticity, it's performance. And if you're not careful, you'll bond with the version of them they designed, not the person they truly are. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Rachel, met a man who seemed perfect from day one. He liked the same music, shared her beliefs, and even claimed to have gone through similar struggles. Within weeks, she felt more emotionally connected to him than anyone before. But then things shifted. Once he knew she was emotionally invested, the facade started to slip. He became critical, distant, and dismissive. Rachel realized too late that he hadn't shown her who he really was. He'd shown her who he knew she wanted him to be. So how do you protect yourself from people like this? First, give things time. Authenticity is consistent. Performance fades. Second, pay attention to patterns. If someone seems to agree with everything, never challenges you, or seems too perfect, don't ignore that instinct. And finally, let people reveal themselves slowly. Not everyone deserves instant access to your trust. At the end of the day, what's real doesn't need to be rehearsed. The most dangerous people aren't the ones who oppose you openly. They're the ones who blend in so perfectly you don't see them coming. So slow down, stay grounded, and remember, true character isn't performed, it's revealed. Number 2, they weaponize kindness. Let's talk about one of the most disarming tactics dangerous people use, kindness. But not the genuine kind that asks for nothing in return. No, this is different. This is calculated, strategic, and timed to perfection. These people show up with praise, gifts, gestures, and overwhelming warmth. Their compliments feel generous. Their help seems unconditional. But look closer, and you'll see the truth. This isn't altruism. its currency. Their kindness comes fast and heavy, not because they care, but because they're buying something far more valuable, your trust. Here's the truth. People who weaponize kindness don't give to connect, they give to control. Their generosity is a setup, a quiet transaction you never agreed to, but one you'll be expected to repay later, often in ways you never imagined. They'll say things like, "After everything I've done for you," or "I thought you were different." And in that moment, you'll realize what looked like care was actually leverage. You weren't being loved, you were being lured. This is where Stoic wisdom brings clarity. Seneca warned, "Beware of those whose kindness arrives too soon. They may not stay long after it's gone." True kindness doesn't rush. It doesn't overwhelm or confuse. It moves slowly, honestly, and without expectation. But dangerous people know that kindness lowers defenses faster than any argument ever could. They're not here for connection, they're here for access. And once you're entangled, once you start to believe that their kindness is proof of their character, it becomes much harder to pull away. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Daniel, got close with a mentor figure at work who showered him with support. From day one, the compliments never stopped. He helped Daniel get noticed, introduced him to key people, and even stepped in to handle issues on his behalf. It felt like a blessing. But months later, when Daniel started getting promoted on his own merit, that same mentor began making subtle jabs. He'd say things like, "You'd be nowhere without me," or "Don't forget who put you on the map." That's when Daniel realized all the help, all the kindness, it wasn't given freely. It was part of a long-term play to own him. And when Daniel refused to comply, that kindness turned cold. So how do you protect yourself? First, observe the pace. When someone gives too much too soon, ask yourself why. Second, notice the balance. Genuine kindness doesn't come with a scorecard. And third, trust your instincts. If something feels off, even if it looks kind, don't ignore it. At the end of the day, kindness is only real when it's free of manipulation. The most dangerous people are often the nicest at first, but not because they care. It's because they know kindness is the easiest disguise. And once they've got your trust, they'll use it, because that was the plan all along. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 3, they study your weaknesses in silence. Let's talk about one of the most unsettling truths about dangerous people. They don't come after you with force. They come with patience. While they appear warm, charming, and harmless, what they're really doing is observing, not openly, quietly, carefully. They watch the way you react when you're praised. They note what makes you light up and what makes you flinch. They pay attention to what you repeat, what you avoid, what you long for. And all of it, every smile, every nod, every comforting word, is part of the setup. Because dangerous people don't just attack, they study. And what they're looking for is your weakness. Here's the truth. While they appear charming, they're actually gathering intel. They want to know what you fear, what you crave, what makes you insecure. Because later, when the timing is right, those exact things will be turned against you. You won't even realize it's happening at first. You'll just feel off balance, like you're being subtly pushed into decisions or behaviors that don't feel like your own. But what's really happening is that they're using what they learned in silence, your private fears, your quiet hopes, as levers to control you. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes essential. Epictetus once said, "The wise man studies himself, the manipulator studies others." Read that again. A person committed to growth turns inward. They reflect. They seek mastery over their own mind. But manipulators, they obsess over understanding other people, not to connect, but to control. If someone knows everything about your pain but never shares their own, if they remember your insecurities but guard their own like a vault, be careful. That's not empathy, that's strategy. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Natalie, started dating someone who seemed incredibly thoughtful. He remembered every detail she mentioned in passing: her childhood fears, her strained relationship with her father, her self-doubt around work. At first, it felt comforting, like finally being understood. But months later, when they argued, he used those exact things to twist the knife. "You're acting just like your dad," or "No wonder you can't keep a job, you don't believe in yourself." That's when Natalie realized this man had never truly cared. He'd just been collecting ammunition. So, how do you protect yourself? First, don't confuse attention with care. Just because someone remembers everything doesn't mean they have good intentions. Second, pace your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves your story, especially not right away. And third, notice if the relationship feels one-sided, if they know your wounds but you know nothing of theirs. At the end of the day, the most dangerous people are often the best listeners. Not because they want to understand you, but because they plan to use you. So stay alert, speak mindfully, and remember, real trust is earned over time, not handed over to anyone who simply seems nice. Number 4, they build trust just to break it. Let's talk about one of the most painful betrayals, when someone earns your trust only to use it against you. At first, they seem genuine. They open up to you quickly. They share personal stories, show vulnerability, and offer deep emotional conversations that make you feel close, even special. You start to believe you've found someone you can finally be real with, someone who gets you. So naturally, you begin to open up too. You let your guard down. You share things you rarely tell anyone else. But what feels like connection in the moment is actually construction. What they're building isn't a bond, it's leverage. Here's the truth. They earn your trust not to protect it, but to later break it. They collect your insecurities like ammunition. They listen closely when you talk about your past, your fears, your regrets, not because they care, but because they're planning. And when the time comes, when things don't go their way or they want control, they'll take what you gave them in confidence and twist it. Your secrets become weapons, your openness becomes exposure, and what you thought was intimacy turns into betrayal. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes a shield. Heraclitus once warned, "Do not disclose your wounds to those who offer only salt." Not everyone who seems gentle is safe. Not everyone who listens deserves to hear your truth. There are people who will appear emotionally available just to fast-track your trust. And once they have it, they will use it not to protect you, but to manipulate you. They're not looking for connection, they're looking for control dressed up as closeness. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Tyler, became close with a colleague who seemed incredibly loyal. They talked about life, struggles, trauma. Tyler felt a real friendship forming. But months later, when a conflict arose at work, that same friend exposed Tyler's vulnerabilities in front of others. Things he had said in private were now being used as proof that he was unstable, emotional, or unfit for responsibility. Tyler wasn't just betrayed, he was blindsided because he didn't lose a friendship. He lost something he thought was safe. So, how do you protect yourself? First, observe how quickly someone tries to dive deep. Real trust is built slowly. If someone is rushing emotional intimacy, pause. Second, watch how they handle your small vulnerabilities before you share the big ones. If they gossip, mock, or weaponize minor things, you already have your answer. And third, protect your emotional privacy. Vulnerability is powerful, but only when given to people who have earned it with consistency and care. At the end of the day, the most dangerous people aren't always loud or aggressive. Some come with softness, with attention, with emotional presence, but underneath it all, they're building a trap. Trust wisely. Because the wrong hands won't hold your story, they'll sharpen it. If you've watched the video this far, don't forget to leave a comment with a thank God and give it a like if you enjoyed the content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more interesting videos. I hope you find inspiration in them and that we continue learning together. Thank you for your support. Number 5. They act like the victim. Let's talk about one of the most manipulative defense tactics dangerous people use: playing the victim. You confront them calmly. You bring up something they said or did that crossed a line. You expect a conversation, maybe even accountability, but instead something strange happens. They suddenly become the one who's hurt. They twist your words. They cry, deflect, or accuse you of being too harsh, too sensitive, or too controlling. And before you know it, you're the one apologizing, even though they're the one who caused the damage. Here's the truth. Dangerous people rarely own their actions. When exposed, they flip the script. They paint themselves as the misunderstood one, the one who's always being picked on or misjudged. They'll bring up irrelevant history, shift blame, or accuse you of attacking them, not because they're truly hurt, but because it works. It confuses you, it disarms you, and most of all, it makes you question your own perception of what happened. What started as a boundary becomes a guilt trip. What started as a confrontation becomes an emotional mess that leaves you feeling like the bad guy. This is where Stoic wisdom offers clarity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The man who cries loudest is not always the one who was wronged." Just because someone acts wounded doesn't mean they were the victim. People who manipulate with emotion are often masters of performance. They've learned that outrage and sorrow are powerful tools, and they use them not to heal, but to escape responsibility and maintain control. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Emily, once confronted a close friend about constantly crossing her boundaries. Instead of listening, the friend broke down crying. She said things like, "I guess I'm just a terrible person," and "Everyone always leaves me." Emily, who had simply asked for respect, ended up comforting the very person who had hurt her. And in that moment, the real issue got buried under emotional chaos. It took Emily months to realize that this pattern had played out before. And it wasn't vulnerability, it was manipulation. So how do you protect yourself from this? First, stay grounded in facts. If your boundaries were violated, don't let someone else's tears erase that. Second, delay the guilt. Give yourself space before responding emotionally. Just because someone feels hurt doesn't mean you did something wrong. And third, notice the pattern. If every time you speak up, they become the victim, you're dealing with manipulation, not misunderstanding. At the end of the day, the most dangerous people won't always scream or threaten. Some will cry. Some will collapse into self-pity, not because they're broken, but because they know it keeps you from seeing the truth. Trust your instincts, even when someone else is trying to make you feel guilty for using them. Number 6. They wait until you're dependent. Let's talk about one of the most chilling behaviors dangerous people display. They wait. They don't show their true face immediately. Instead, they're patient, they listen, they support, they give. They build trust slowly, carefully, strategically. And the entire time, they're watching one thing: how much you begin to rely on them, emotionally, financially, socially. The more you lean, the more power they gain. And when they're sure you're dependent, when they know you feel too attached, too involved, or too indebted to walk away, that's when everything changes. Here's the truth. Once they know you rely on them, the niceness fades. The warmth you once trusted becomes cold. The support turns into control. They might criticize you, restrict you, or guilt you into submission. But now you're stuck. Why? Because they waited until you needed them. And now that you do, they're not who they pretended to be. They've switched roles from caretaker to captor. And the scariest part, you didn't even notice it happening. This is where Stoic wisdom speaks loudly. Seneca said, "Freedom is lost, not all at once, but in silent, subtle steps." You don't wake up one day and realize you're trapped. You slowly stop making your own choices. You stop trusting your judgment. You stop thinking about what's best for you because they've made you believe they know better. And by the time you see what's happening, the dependency is so deep, it feels impossible to escape. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Jenna, met someone who seemed like a dream. He was protective, supportive, generous. He encouraged her to quit her job to rest and offered to cover her bills. He slowly pulled her away from her friends, convincing her they didn't have her best interest. And for a while, Jenna felt cared for, safe. But after a year, things changed. He became cold, dismissive, even cruel. And when she tried to speak up, he reminded her of everything he'd done. "After all I've sacrificed for you, you owe me." That's when Jenna realized his kindness was never about love. It was about leverage. So how do you protect yourself from this? First, maintain your independence. No matter how kind someone seems, keep your emotional, financial, and social identity intact. Second, be mindful of sudden generosity. If someone insists on taking care of everything early on, ask yourself why. And third, check for balance. Real connection doesn't require losing yourself. It allows both people to remain whole. At the end of the day, the most dangerous people don't trap you with force. They do it with kindness, consistency, and patience until you need them more than you need yourself. And that's when control begins. So stay aware, stay grounded, and protect your freedom before it becomes something you have to fight to get back. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 7. They disappear when they can't control you. Let's talk about one of the most revealing moments in any toxic dynamic, when you finally reclaim your power and they suddenly vanish. At first, their presence was constant. Texts, compliments, attention. They made you feel seen, special, even needed. But as soon as you stop reacting, as soon as you stop letting them steer your emotions or shape your choices, something changes. Their energy shifts. They grow cold, distant. Then, without warning or explanation, they disappear. Here's the truth. Their silence isn't peace. It's a failed strategy. You stopped playing their game, and now they have no use for you. Because for them, connection was never about genuine closeness. It was about control. When that control slips through their fingers, they retreat, not out of heartbreak, but out of frustration. They can't manipulate someone who no longer responds. They can't dominate someone who no longer needs their approval. So they vanish, hoping their absence will still hurt you, hoping silence will speak louder than presence ever did. This is where Stoic wisdom offers quiet strength. Marcus Aurelius said, "Let the manipulative depart in silence. Their absence is your liberation." It may feel like loss at first. After all, they were part of your life. But if someone walks away because they can no longer control you, their exit is not a tragedy. It's a gift. Their disappearance confirms what their charm once hid. They were never there for your growth. They were there for your compliance. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Anna, was in a relationship where her partner constantly controlled how she dressed, who she saw, and what she posted online. At first, it seemed like concern, even love. But over time, she realized it was all about control. When she finally began to push back, to reclaim her voice and make decisions for herself, he changed. No more calls, no more affection. Then suddenly he ghosted her completely. No goodbye, no closure, just silence. And though it hurt at first, Anna later understood. His love wasn't real. It was a leash, and once she cut it, he had no reason to stay. So how do you respond when someone like this disappears? First, resist the urge to chase. Their exit is not rejection, it's exposure. Second, remind yourself that peace doesn't require explanation. If someone only wanted you when they could control you, their silence is not a mystery, it's a message. And third, celebrate the clarity. When their mask falls off, don't grieve the person they pretended to be. Respect the truth you've finally seen. At the end of the day, the most dangerous people are only present when they're in control. When you rise, they retreat, not because you've failed them, but because you've outgrown them. Let them go. Their absence isn't abandonment, it's freedom. If you believe this video can help others, give it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way. Share your thoughts in the comments. I will definitely reply.